meeting of the Holiday County Convention Facility and Development Corporation on January 24th and 25 at 8:34 a.m. And we have a roll call.
Debbie Berry, Jeff Epstein, David Gilbert,
Here.
Najee McClue,
Here.
Trevor McAleer,
Here.
Michael Obi, Tim Optermat, Rashonda Smith, Mayor Sellers.
Here.
So we do not have a quorum. What we'll do is we'll defer approval of the minutes until we have a quorum. With that, we'll go to the public comments if there are any public comments on the agenda.
There are no public comments.
Thank you. There we'll go to the executive director report, then we'll turn it over to Tim.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the meeting. Good to be back. Everyone this whole day. Just a couple of things to start off. 2024 was quite a year. As we now have in our first quarter meeting in 2025, a lot was accomplished in 2024. Obviously, renovation, hosted ASAE, open Baker Boulevard, and of course, the transition with the new executive director. 2025 looks to be off to a really good start. Got a lot of new business challenges that we're dealing with. New board members coming on in April, and we're changing some of the processes in the board meeting. Also, there'll be some new information that's presented today, specifically talking about citywide pace as it relates to the future of the business. Talk about activations in the building, new sales strategies, and we also have a leading in the meeting. We'll be doing a separate presentation in addition to ASM. Their role is critically important to the success of the building. Food and beverage revenue accounts for about 60% of revenue. That is critical that we start bringing that into. Regarding financials, we're starting the year off with a little under $1 million in cash and operating cash going into the first quarter, which is our slowest point where we'll have to obviously fund the operation. So we'll be tight there. We have about $3.5 million in the capital budget with a lot of projects that you'll see later in this presentation that'll talk about exactly where the budget is. Important part, my 90-day onboarding plan. I have a copy of it in your packets there. Shows I completed all the tasks that were assigned, specifically working a lot with Jeff on the obligations and contractual role of CCFDC and the financials. I put a lot of time dealing with that. A lot of outreach to local community members that are critical to the success of this industry and the business of CCFDC. Operational review, I spent a lot of time. I now have bi-weekly meetings with ASM and Levy to go over their operational results and future expense management and sales strategies. We also do a quarterly meeting where they'll be presenting their planning for the next quarter, which is including atrium activations. And they will bring that into the board meeting in the future to talk about what came in for the next quarter for everyone to do that. My role is changing a little bit, really being active in the community, specifically on the sales portion of the business in the market with Destination Cleveland, ASM and Levy, just to bring CCFDC in a more prominent role as customers are coming into the building and help support their efforts and hopefully secure more business long term. Continued outreach in the community and with Jeff's help, starting conversations with Public Hall to figure out how we can partner differently, look at opportunities that we can support them also, and hopefully build a better model down the road. Okay. Next slide, Julie. 2025 goals for the office, or I can throw Julie in there with me. CCFDC operations. More efficient communication to the board. That'll include a board portal that we're talking about creating right now. We've just initiated that process. More transparent reporting and processes and finances, which we shared some information last week regarding the expenses of the CCFDC and the pet club. And then future development of committees as we're working through and adding other committees on the board, take on other responsibilities, specifically right now looking at an HR committee. Business development strategy is a critical goal for me this year, working with ASM and Levy, and then operational results, really looking at expense management, event performance, services, positioning of the building, and social media efforts to really support the efforts of sales and how this building is perceived in the outside world. Public Hall I talked about, and then continued outreach to the community leaders to see exactly how we can do something differently going forward. Next slide goes into current projects that I'm working on. We have a plan, the 2025 board retreat. Majid and I are starting to talk about that. I would ask all board members if you could talk to Julia before you leave today, and hopefully we can tie down some range of dates, so we start narrowing down an option to host that meeting. Develop a board portal. We're also gonna update the CCFDC website, so I'll be requesting headshots from everyone so that we can, make that a better feel for the role of the office and what we're working on. And I've started researching competitive markets to figure out which cities have similar structures that we might want to consider best practices, to hopefully escalate how we are supporting the efforts in the facility and influencing business operations. And developing a 5-year plan for CCFDC and Convention Center. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Any questions to the executive director? With that, we'll turn it over to the convention center and get an update on the cap.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Busy year in 2024, especially considering we had the construction going on. So what we're looking at is, we're calling a preliminary because we have not officially closed out the year. So this is closing out December, and we could see some minor adjustments moving forward, but this is really our landing pad. So we hosted 117 events, had over 300 and almost 340,000 visits, $19 million of gross revenue, $9 million in operating income, $12 million in expense, or almost $13 million in expenses. That left us minus about 3.96, but that is $47,000 favorable to budget. And a lot of you know that there was a point in time that I was very concerned about making budget, but I have to say that with the staff here, I can't say enough about their efforts on mitigating expenses that last little bit. I'll also say what really kind of put us for a while upside down was our utility expenses, and so we did a few things. We got a new engineer. We hired a consulting firm, Krapinski, to come in and really go through our systems to make sure we weren't missing anything. Everything looked good. The major contributing factor to expenses was construction, just having that area open. Now that that's all normalized, we've seen our utilities normalize and back in line. So I feel really good about that. Utilities, if not for the utilities, we'd be sitting here talking about a $250,000 positive variance. So that's where, we learned from that. We under budgeted utilities a little bit. We did add for construction, but didn't quite make the mark on that. It was more impactful than we thought it would be. Moving forward, we always like to talk about economic impact. That's what we live for. So in the last quarter, we had 31 events, a little over $10 million in economic impact. But for the year, looking at 117 events and just over $135 million of economic impact. That was a very good year, especially considering where we were with construction. I want to talk about some of those contributors, the top 10 contributors in economic impact. Go to the next slide, Julie. You're fine. So thank you, Sports Commission, NCAA Women's Final Four, over almost $33 million in economic impact. I want to run down, that first quarter here, we do an awful lot of sports and cheer and dance. And some people say, well, that's not great business, but I want you to see JVA Rock and Rumble, $6.4 million of economic impact. You go down from there, Nike North Coast Volleyball, $4.7 million of economic impact. So, the sales team has really done a great job of filling that first quarter in to get business that not only fills up the convention center, but creates room nights and creates economic impact. I also want to concentrate on number 5, American Society of Association Executives. Not only, and Gordon's way back there, so I have to turn around. Not only is it helping us and has made a big difference already that we're seeing in bookings into the future, but on top of that, 5,700 people in attendance that saw Cleveland, $5.7 million of economic impact. So just on its own, never mind all the business that we're getting, but on its own, it was a huge success. And now I'll turn my time over to Travis and talk about sales.
So Ron and Tim said, 2024 was busy, not only with events going on, but with opportunities. So in the year of 2024, we had 876 different activities put into our system. Of those, 462 were qualified leads. We closed 124 of those, so it's a 26.8% closure ratio, which I'm extremely happy about, especially knowing that 115 of those leads are still active. But it wasn't just leads. We also did 139 sites, and that's with a sales team of 3 plus myself. And then our events team did 96 planning events. So you're looking at, over 200 events where we had somebody in the building, either planning or siting, in 2024. Overall, for 2024, we did 145 net events booked. So that's the 124 from that we received in 2024 plus ones that we received in 2023 or 2022. Over 2 million in licensing, 233,000 hotel room nights, 243,000 in attendance, 14 million in food and beverage commitments, and then forecasted economic impact of 188 million. So 145 events booked in the year turned definite. That's basically on a pace to turn something definite every 2 days. So we were cranking, but I know the question is, has the new space, the renovation, helped? And absolutely, it has been a game changer since we started selling the new space. So not just in 2024, but when we started selling it, once we had the schematics and the plans, we booked 111 events into the new space. Of those, 81 are events that would not have booked the Huntington Convention Center without the new space, whether it was they were too big with the old configuration, whether it was somebody who said, we're only going to be in the atrium. If we're not in the atrium, we're not going to come to your building, or if it was a second event that we layered on top. And that's where we've really had some success, is working with Gordon's team and the hotel community to take multiple events, which we didn't have the ability to do. That second ballroom being 20,000 square feet and having the larger breakouts, just what the study from, CSL told us was, you need this to be competitive. We now feel like we're competitive. As a sales guy, I could use more space. I could use more everything, but
We're competitive today.
And Ron and Jude and I were looking and reviewing for this meeting, and there's a week in November where every room but 2 is occupied by 3 different groups that really shows what we were able to do by layering it. So we have 3 different clients using 3 different parts of the building, and each group is booked by a different sales manager. So not only does it show that we're getting the process of layering, but it's successful. So we're going to continue that process, because not everything is going to be a grand slam, but if we can do multiple things and work with, again, the team at Destination Cleveland, along with the big stuff, we've got some opportunities. So those 81 events.
How many events of those 81 use the outside space?
I don't have, I can get you that number. I will tell you that outside space, even for not just
Talking
social,
about the terrace.
Yeah.
is people that want to go out there and do their breakfast out there, do their lunch out there, want to go up and just do a PM break out there.
I think if we can show that, because.
Yeah, I can absolutely show you
and
that.
We had the ballroom, right? We just made it bigger.
Yeah.
But if people are,
It's a game changer.
yeah,
The bigger ballroom is the biggest demand. The rooftop terrace is second, and then the bigger breakouts are third. And then people love the loft of all things, that fourth floor, that wide open space.
Mhm.
We've done everything from build a bike up there to, that's such multi-use space, but I can absolutely get you the number on how many events we've booked on the rooftop.
We'll get you that and get it out to the.
Yep. So those 81 events though, over 200,000 hotel room nights, 98,000 in attendance, almost $1 million in space rent, 12 million in food, 96 million in estimated economic impact. And we're not done, booking. The big signature event, I know we've talked on this, but this is a group who said, we wouldn't have looked at you without the new space. AP reading, 4-year deal. First year starts this year. Each year is 16,000 estimated room nights and 1.5 in catering. So, you're looking at 64,000 room nights and 6 million in catering with that one booking, that one client who wouldn't have even looked at us if we didn't have the atrium reconfigured like it is.
And not to be self-serving, but take advantage of an opportunity whenever I can get one, Mr. Chairman. I think that this group should congratulate itself and these two guys sitting here next to each other that really got this over the finish line. This is a game changer for Cleveland. It has made a difference. And I think, I mean, I'll look to Gordon to comment on, has it made it easier to sell? Are we selling more? Is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the ride along, walking through the, when they first come in here and they look up and somebody died, like, what a nice way to start the site. It's always good impression. I would add with that, the coordination of the site inspection between the Hilton, the center, destination, Cleveland, and all our other hotels, some of the best in the country. So now we have this cool experience that people can walk into. We already do a crazy amount of preparation before these people get here. So we can make it really personable and memorable, make it physically hard for them to not want to book Cleveland. And that was the case with this group. They didn't want to come here for the site. You know, we paid for their flight to come out in January of, a couple of years ago, and they fell in love with it. So yeah, it's been awesome. The new space is great.
So touching kind of on what Gordon said with the coordination between the Hilton, the Convention Center, and Destination Cleveland, I found this report that Tim helped us with. It kind of shows when we're all doing well, we're all doing well. When we're not, it's, when we're aligned, you can see how we progress. And when we're not having a good year, it affects all three of us. The other thing that really intrigues me, and this is kind of a year-over-year comparison of room nights with all three properties. But if you look at 2028, that spike that's just insane. That is, Gordon and I haven't talked about it, but that is, I think, both our goals and the hotel community's goal to start layering things in further out that drive business that far out to set us up for success. That is, we've done an amazing job, the hotel community, Destination Cleveland, to drop.
I'm trying to,
So just
the
a-
vision is not the best. I see Hilton Convention Center
And
and City.
City's the green.
What are you measuring there?
So what we're measuring is room nights year over year pace compared to the previous year over year pace. So you look at like 24 to 25 and then 25 to 26, how the pace for each organization differs from
Mike,
the
you
previous
took a little
year.
bit. So,
Absolutely.
again, this is where we were same time prior year, moving forward 5 years,
Yeah.
right? Gordon does this for the entire market. So, my vision is right, the green, that is the overall city, which shows where we are pace-wise in the entire city, as Gordon pulled that information together. And then it shows the convention center and Hilton, and what it's showing us right here, right, we're relatively flat, this is 2025. Next year, we dip down. We've known it's been an off year for the most part. Gordon, I can't remember how far we're up pace of the city.
It only represents, it can be corrected.
Yeah, so he's got short-term goals and tactics to try and offset that, to get that up to at very least even to this year, right? And then we spike up. I think part of that spike is added space in the center, added opportunities that we've had out there. And you can see a dip at the last year, which is 2029, right? It looks concerning, right? Gordon's not in his head because he knows it's his pace concern year, but 4 years out is where this city is in sweet spot, right? Which is where you see that spike there. That's 4 years out that they were booking. Gordon's team has managed to double the amount of business that they're booking 4 years out compared to 5 years ago. So he has seen a significant increase in that window based on their efforts. He's got to continue that to 2029 and to keep that moving forward in the future, right? As a comparison, while the new space is a huge advantage to us, the one challenge that I've shared with them, this market pre-COVID, we were doing 67% occupancy in downtown. We're running 60 right now. So while we made a lot of progress, at the end of the day, we got to get back to 60%, which I think is where that investment in the new space helps us go after business and layer it that we probably were not able to in the past. Okay, so again, it all ties in together, and David, I know you're aware of all of this. So we can stack more business. We can we got to push to get to that 67%. Not committing that we can get there because our highest competitor right now is running 62%. So we've got some ground to make up, but I think we've got we've got the product and we've got the people in place to go. Okay. And this is one of the new slides I added for the board to continue giving an overview of the market. That we'll keep this in every quarter, so exactly what we got. Okay. What would you like this slide to look like? And this is not unusual for a market, right? Every convention market has its ups and downs. You would like to see steady growth. At some point, you reach a ceiling, right? There's only so far you're going to be able to go, which is where we'll start getting into conversations about, do we need more space? Do we need more hotels? You know, every market goes through this. So ideally, you would like to see continual growth and offset some of that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think and again, I'm going to look to Gordon to talk about this perhaps. The thing that I'm taking away from this slide, when I first got here and prior to Gordon being here, we were a 2-year and in market. And with David and Gordon and their sales teams, when I first got, it was very frustrating for me because when I first got here, 2 years in market, typical citywide convention market is 3 to 5 years out. So we weren't hitting that. So now our sweet spot at 4 years, we're now on track with the other major cities and that 3 to 5 year.
It changes what Ron can do in the space when he's working 4 years out. It changes what hotels can do when they see what's on the books 4 years out, so they can have different strategies, shorter term. When you're only focused within 2 years, Ron, you're right, that's what we were looking at 5 years ago. It makes it very complicated because you're basically desperate for whatever business that's asking to bid. This gives us much more control, allows us to grow occupancy and rate much better when we're looking that far out.
And I had one other too, because we're now finally a player in this industry. The other thing this does, when everything was booked 2 years in, you have a lot of pressure of conflicting bookings between sort of short-term use of the building that doesn't create economic impact and meetings and conventions that bring people in. The short-term stuff doesn't come to the building, I don't think, 4 years out, saying I'm planning a wedding 4 years out, 5 years out. So the more, like now we're doing what we should be doing, thankfully, booking so many of these groups way ahead of time that are the big economic drivers. And then, 18, 24 months in, we've done our job with meetings and conventions for the most part, and you could start filling in with more local business that generates revenue for the building, but not necessarily for the city. It's a little complicated formula. You're always balancing, but it was much harder to do when everything was booked 2 years in, local, short-term versus, and meetings and conventions. So everything is easier with that kind of success.
And to follow up on it, the majority of your really big events, they book further out. When we were waiting till inside of 2 years, we were getting there's a reason why you're still looking 2 years, and we were desperate, like, David said here, we're able to pick and choose and get some of the big bookings, the bookings that drive that economic impact needle that makes sense for the community, as opposed to 2 years in and we're begging you to come to Cleveland. We're not begging you to come to Cleveland now. And now we have stuff layered in so the hotels can then strategize further out as opposed to we're all sitting empty. So I think this is a great report. We can obviously adjust and tweak as necessary to present. But I think it's nice to kind of see, the three of us aligned, hotels being led by the Hilton, the Center, and Destination Cleveland, how we impact. And as we book stuff, you will see, and like Tim said, my goal is to continue to see this stuff level off. But again, booking new stuff, absolutely. But it's much easier to rebook somebody than it is to find a new piece of business. And that's where event organizer, even though we were under renovation for the majority of last year, these are the scores. All of these scores are in the green. It's compared to other convention centers around the country. All of them are above the average. 87 in overall experience from our 38 planners that responded, 92 in quality, 87 in condition, 95 in meeting needs, 91 in event contract. And I put a lot of that credit on the staff here, the operations staff, the event staff, the Destination Cleveland services team, who take care of these events when they're here and make these clients want to come back. Because the more clients that want to come back, the less new business we have to find. It's just, and then we get into a nice routine. So, being under renovation, I'm extremely happy with what our team was able to accomplish from our meeting planners, and from the feedback they gave. And then one more slide, starting off as, Tim and Ron said, we're starting off, really well in Q1. We've got 27 definite events on the books currently. 26,000, room nights, 97,000 in attendance. And again, that is because a lot of them are the volleyballs, et cetera. 382,000 in rent and 422,000 in contracted food and beverage. This by far is the slowest month for Levy because it's a lot of concession. So this is where we do, we'll do 4 volleyball tournaments in the first 6 weeks of the year. Not a lot of catering, a lot of concessions, a lot of room nights, a lot of attendance. So yeah. Oh, sorry, Jude, I'm still in your wherever he is. So again, we're driving economic impact in the slowest time of the year for us, and that's what we're here to do. So, I'm not going to go into any more details, but volleyball, we've got fencing coming back. The Sports Commission has done a great job bringing these events into us in what we consider a slower time when we can take them. So, that's it for me.
Yeah.
No, I know we're gonna be out of here by 10, no matter what happens. It's question, two, quick questions, and I'll put them both out. They may require more time to answer, but you caught my attention with the use of the law, because we've always had this question about the highest and best use for the law. Curious if the use of it as a multi-purpose is actually the highest and best, if that is actually helping you get business, but you have the flexibility of a space like that on the 4th floor to use it. And the second question is really, again, that's a bigger discussion, but we tend to always think of the inclement weather in Cleveland as limiting us to the indoors. And we've all been to Chicago and other places that have more inclement weather than we do. And they take advantage of the outdoors with the heated tents and things of that nature. So I ask, does the terrace only have to be used during the summer season, or are there opportunities to use it?
I can answer that question. So the city would only grant us a permit for the tent if we said we would only use it
half a year less.
180 days.
180 days a year. That's it. So as we look at that, we're layering in what the bookings are and the season is to try to figure out when that tent goes up and when it comes
Let
down.
me just cut to if the regulatory environment were different, could you activate it in the winter?
Yes.
Perhaps.
We've had groups ask, can they put heaters out there? Can they go out there? We still have people go out there with no tent. When the weather's halfway decent, just to get the fresh air. Not as much obviously as the summer when the weather's nice, but and then the loft, when I say multi-use for the loft, I mean, we do general sessions up there. It's a rain backup. It's a large breakout. It's a meal room where we're not having to take a ballroom out of play because we can do 450 people for a lunch up there. So if we get a group that's just a 1-day lunch, I'm not having to take a ballroom out of play for something bigger. I can put them up with a loft. So it's my, Swiss Army room, for lack of a better term, that I can use for so many different things.
But I will tell you, Majid, to further answer your question, part of the other regulatory issues, we can't use heaters in that space. So
I don't mean to turn this meeting into that.
No,
It's
no, I
something
just-
that caught my
yeah.
attention, a question to think about.
Yep.
Are any other questions of ASM? With that, I want to welcome Jude to the table, and I think very much I see this as a two-way street. I think of it very much commend Tim for thinking of it this way, and I think of it. One, this is a message to the board and to the public in terms of the importance of Levy and what Levy does and how critical Levy is to our operations. And number two, it's a message to Levy by you sitting at the board table in terms of our expectation of the level of service that we also expect of Levy. So I think we very much like this new format as we keep it happening. And I don't know, Tim, if you wanted to say something before.
No, I think we're doing the introduction. Just to
Sure.
make I'm very understood.
And I'll turn it over to Jude to give it.
Majid, thank you. I appreciate the time this morning. Tim as well. It's exciting to be able to have a voice at this meeting. And, I wanted to go over Levy and our update, what we did last year in 2024, our fiscal year, and some of the things that we talked about last year in the board meeting and report back on them and show you the results. So as we look at Levy, year to date through 2024, we did 10.9 million in gross revenue. Of that, 8.7 million was catering. Other portions of the business are 1.14 million in restaurants and cafe, or what some call concessions. Levy, we'd like to shoot higher target. We call it restaurants and cafes, and we offer nicer things. The other piece of it is Starbucks. Starbucks is approaching $1 million cafe. Last year, we did $949,573 in the Starbucks. We've continued to grow that every year. We feel like galvanizing the leadership and making the capital investments in the proper equipment to keep things moving along has been a home run in that space, and it continues to grow in our downtown business. And then the additional Bagel Boulevard. Bagel Boulevard opening up on October 14th, has done $58,333 in revenue. Bagel Boulevard, we'll talk more about that as we continue to see it grow. And that'll be on my next slide. And looking through everything with the atrium space, after it opened up, after the grand opening, it was fast and furious. People wanted the space. And we did 20 atrium events for a total of $1.8 million. And that was beginning right in August, directly after AS. It didn't stop. Right, Travis? I mean, it just kept going. And it was, to Gordon's point, and people walk in, they see the atrium space, they're enamored by it. It's a gorgeous space. Wanted to update on one of the things that I talked about last year in the board meeting was Mash-Gen technology, or we'll call self-ordering, self-checkout kiosk. We basically went through and we did these in all the Mark Expo halls. So the market stands that are on the Expo floor, there's stands A, B, and C. And prior, it was run by a square terminal where somebody would have to sit there and ring you out, which is time consuming and costs a lot of money and labor over time. So all the market stands now are being powered by Mash-Gen. I'd like to tell you that I picked up Mash-Gen, but fortunately Levy has this thing called DBK Studios, and they look at all these self-ordering kiosks and they're like, this is the one you want for an expo hall. It's ruggedized, it's able to move around, it's very fast.
You may remember, and hopefully Mayor Sellers remembers, I did a little Vanna White with the Mash-Gen at one of our board meetings where we kept, when you put stuff underneath it, and it would just come up as to what it was. So that's this technology.
So, we made the investment, we took a look at it, and, it's been a home run. So to report back on it, we've certainly enhanced the guest experience, we've decreased transaction times, and we've increased our average ticket. What do those numbers look like? Well, we ran 37,174 transactions through the self-checkout kiosks in the market stands with an average ticket of $11.29. But the real key is that transaction time is only 18 seconds. So when somebody goes and they want to check out and grab sodas, grab candy bars, make it a grab and go, they can move very quickly. And so through the restaurants and cafes, $419,000 of that and $400 of that revenue was through the Mash-Gen self-checkout kiosk. So we've reduced labor, we've increased the guest experience, and we've moved people faster. And it's also kind of like the no built zone. You can add that cookie, not a problem. $2 more.
No one's gonna judge you.
Nobody's gonna judge you. So it's definitely been a hit. So just a little report back on the Mash-Gen. And there was a video of it in action. That's okay. I think Ron's self demo was better. And it's truly, you take multiple pictures of each item to set it all up. The integration was fairly seamless, but it goes so quickly. We'll go on to the next slide. So 2025 initiatives, Bagel Boulevard, we're really making a focus there. You do all the analytics, you run things up the totem pole, you try to find a concept that's going to fit, and you really hope it's going to. And I've seen it go both ways. And this one is gaining traction in this community. It's providing a nice lunch, nice breakfast for people that are around the surrounding office buildings. On a dark day, we don't have any shows in house. Okay, we're doing anywhere from $600. That's a bad weather day to $1,500. When we have expos in house or any sort of a show, it scales up very nicely. We can do anywhere from $4,500 to $6,000. I believe we forecasted $300,000 in business at Bagel Boulevard, being very conservative this year, and we should exceed that without issue with shows in the house. So it's nice that people are liking, we're listening to the feedback of our guests, and we're starting to do things, making a push on doing a chef-driven monthly bagel and chef-driven sandwich. This month with youth sports, we did more of a grilled cheese bagel. Kind of hits the market with the younger generation. And then we did a French toast, actually just bagel itself. So you have the grilled cheese sandwich and the French toast bagel, and it's been a hit. And we actually can say that. We have a chef-driven bagel concept. This isn't just a brew bagel where there's not a chef back there and they're pulling out of the box in the street. We're baking them in-house. Chef Sarah has been the driving force behind that initiative. The new initiative is an enhanced mobile ordering campaign that's targeting downtown corporate business. The technology that we've put in with the self-ordering kiosk has the ability to do mobile orders, and we feel like it's gonna be a complete home run when we push it hard to the surrounding office buildings. Because nobody has the time for lunch anymore, people don't have the time to wait, they wanna get that order in, come over and pick it up, and we can do that, and we can do that successfully.
Do we have the capability of delivering local to the?
We could. I would say what I'd like to see if that demand is there because it's easily done. And nowadays with these apps, you can even ping like an Uber or DoorDash driver and the end user doesn't even know where it's coming.
Right.
Yeah, so we absolutely could do that.
Before you move on, just 2 points on Bagel Boulevard, it's gonna outperform the forecasted revenue for year end.
Yes.
Which is really nice. Chef Sarah is doing a great job down there, and, she also runs the farm, or part of the farm on honeybees for us. We've got, honey samples outside for the board members, that they with you from the farm. And one initiative that's not up there, we need to talk about is spending funds on updating the farm. We had some problems this past year with rodents, so we're really focused on getting the right person to oversee that. And we'll have to enhance some of that.
Free labor, right, Gary?
We'll lose any chickens, you need any chickens. We'll let you know. So, we're working on that, and by the spring meeting, next quarter, we'll have more information on that.
Thank you, Tim. And then the last initiative is in trying to find this concept that works for all parties in the building is booth catering with bagels, and we've had interest right away. And the seamless portal where you can order your booth orders in advance, that will be an item on there to be ordered. So, you know, you can get a dozen bagels, 2.5 pounds of schmear, shows up at your booth, hot, fresh for the day. It's a nice addition.
So are the bagels available on the floor, if there's volleyball going on, or do they have to go to the store?
They have to go to the store. They have to go to the store currently. And then some of the Levy and ASM Q1 partner marketing highlights. So, you know, as Travis and myself and Scott, we established a marketing meeting early on, and we're continuing to grow and enhance those initiatives. We've added Levy sales team to that. Jordan's been doing a phenomenal job with the social media, so it's all really. The big push is starting to launch a boosted social media ads going towards wedding and more social events that are gonna hit that atrium space that David was talking about, and booking a lot around those larger expos, so you can fill in the blank with pieces that are gonna be fiduciary helpful to the center. You know, and being aggressive with our offerings, you know, we want people to get into the door, getting people into the building and doing things for that. You know, if somebody wants to book a wedding here, you know, the hottest thing right now is late night, right? We can make some concessions on late nights to get them in there to book their wedding, to see what it's all about. You know, the other thing that we're looking at is the 2025 catering menu tasting. We did this last year. It was a huge hit. We did it internally for our building partners, but this year we're gonna do a full board invite. We'd like you to see what Levy is producing, what everybody's going to have when they come for a catering event. Chef Michael, Chef Sarah, and Chef Chris have done a really phenomenal job of putting together a new menu, and we're excited about it. We want to roll it out. And then after, we're going to use those pictures to market it heavily via social media so everybody can see how great our food looks. Because people really eat with their eyes, and one of the most followed things on Instagram is food. And then other ideas to activate the atrium space. You know, first quarter, Chef Sarah is going to be doing a pop-up for Valentine's Day. So anything dipped in chocolate, anything you want to pick up for your loved one, you know, those will be available. A flyer will be going out on social media.
Or for yourself.
Everybody gets it. Yeah, that's true, right? I might need something. Well, Ron, you may need something, right?
We will.
And then looking at rotating pop-up, showcasing local businesses that make sense for shows that could be in-house, and finding the designated space to do so, and the shows that actually fit that local business. So we can incorporate that and just bring more activity and liveliness to that atrium space. And then, as Tim indicated, there's a little honey pot down there in the corner, and so we do our own honey here, and we have 7 active hives, and the honey this year turned out absolutely phenomenal. It's very floral with the herbs and the flowers that we had growing down the farm, so there are some on the table for everybody to take away. So please enjoy the honey when you're having some tea.
And I would say the honey is our giveaway during sites. Clients love it. They remember it. They remember the farm. It's a small enough container. You can take it in a carry-on. We learned that the hard way. Our first time it was too big. TSA got a lot of honey the first 6 months when we were giving them away. And it's just memorable. It's something other people don't have. Everything's a farm in downtown Cleveland.
Actually, just to follow up on that, there's an old joke, probably only 3 people in this room have the frame of reference for, which is when Ellis was trying to sell its vitamin C showers. But my point is, we're living in a time when there's a lot more emphasis on healthier food, you know, even the Make America Healthy Again and all that kind of stuff. Are you getting any requests for, I understand the means of delivery of it, but in terms of the offerings, in terms of stuff without all the sugar, without all the seed oils, without all, is there a business case for that to be made, like, I understand that's not what everybody coming to the convention, but like, if somebody lives a healthier lifestyle and they come to the convention, do they have an option? Is there a venue for them to get seed oil free food, or, you know?
We hear it and see it every day, Eugene. Like, really, people are focusing on healthy eating and unfortunately drinking less alcohol. And also, we've done things like.
Unfortunately, you just.
Unfortunately,
Well,
we like to sell alcohol, right? You know, so we put together, food programs for that, you know, for our restaurants and cafes. We developed a concept called the salted olive. That is more of a healthier version of a concessionary, pop-up stand. These are things that you don't see every day, and we've had a lot of people that have really, thank you for having this. We enjoy having this. And with the planners, we're seeing more vegan, vegetarian options each and every day, and gone are the days where you can just do roasted vegetables and a salad and think that's going to suffice.
Yeah, and my point, I mean, there are people now who are religious about, you know, they'll only have extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil, you know, they will not touch canola oil, or, you know, I don't know if that's becoming an issue, but it's just something to keep in mind in terms of whether it's seed oils, whether it's the sugars, whether it's it could be too expensive to comply with that. I don't know. I just raised it as a question because we're seeing it everywhere.
Oh, it's a great question. And I mean, and we see it and we hear it and we respond, like, even thinking of our coffee breaks, we only offer sugar and raw and stevia. We don't offer the other sweeteners that have been known to cause problems. You know, we try to stay ahead of the curve on these things because, yes, healthy eating is becoming more prominent across the board. Catering, Starbucks, Bagel Boulevard, we're offering healthy options in Bagel Boulevard as well. You just want to make sure that when people come in are vegan and vegetarian, that they're not just limited to those options because that's what they can eat, but also because they're phenomenal. And people are eating more of these options. You go, wow, this is really good. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but I'm enjoying what I'm eating.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind if I add, everyone, Chris Buff, Vice President of Operations with Levy. Good morning. So this is something that we've been talking about at my level quite a bit. So to Jude's point, we're obviously designing menus that way. When we're looking at the products that we're starting with, we're looking at, you know, we use hormone antibiotic-free protein. Our fish are all sustainably caught. You know, we hold ourselves to all those standards as kind of a baseline for our products that we use, and then are continuing to evolve menus. Like, there's a lot of discussion now about covering things in plastic wrap even, and the heat transfer to plastic wrap. So these are all, literally last week, we're having an active, you know, spirited debate about Doritos and the artificial diet, and it's how do you balance, we love Doritos, but are they, you know, the right thing? So we have to find that balance between that, and we're actually talking about building sections on the menus that actually take it a step further than just what was putting us ahead of the curve when we opened this building in 2013 is now the standard. And so we're looking for what that next step
Thank you.
is.
No, and I just think and put it on the menu and for the customer to know. I mean, you know, whether your fish is wild or farmed, is the thing now.
Yes.
Whether your, you know, beef is grass fed and grass fed, you know, it's not just sufficient to be grass fed. It has to be grass fed and grass finished. You know, all that kind of stuff. It just sort of people pay attention to it. That 2 years back, nobody had any idea about any of that stuff.
And it's great storytelling and creates that experience, and just telling the stories that we tell at the Chef's Garden here that we have in Huron, Ohio. It's a great example of bringing those things forward to the customer and the end user.
Any questions of Levy? With that, Julie, do we have a quorum? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna shift the agenda a little bit to go back to approve the minutes, and then we'll go back to the regular agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the October 25th and December 10 minutes?
We'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Julie, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. And with that, we'll go to, the engineering report and capital projects for today.
Before I start, I do want to thank ASM and Levy. I think they've done a phenomenal job really adjusting to a different style, disposition, and I think my expectations. So thank you to those guys and their teams, and at the corporate level, also. So thank you for all you've been able to do through this 90 days. I'm gonna go to engineering and capital reports. I may move through this relatively quickly. The board was sent out the facility assessment report that Osborne did for us last year. We emailed that out. If you need other copies of it, please let me know. The report's very detailed and covers a lot of aspects of the building. I just wanted to touch on some of the most critical issues here because these could be big ticket items down the road as we're working through it. We've had numerous meetings with Osborne to get more details on it. Jeff and Ellis have both been instrumental in working through some of these questions and are helping me do the research to figure out next steps. The first part of the project that was really a concern, is a concern, stairwell on the east wall. This butts up against the auditorium. There's water infiltration on that wall. It's been a problem for years now. It's not a new issue. It was resolved at one point. They took some steps to remediate the problem. It's kind of occurring again. It's not a structural issue, but we would like to find a solution to this. Initial response was you gotta dig down 30 feet outside and figure out where it's coming from. It's groundwater, it's not a leak or anything. So the long-term solution in that, we gotta really figure out how much funds we wanna commit to solving that problem as that hallway there.
Tim, if I may, it is back of a house and not viewable by the fire
It's not
client.
guest facing, so
Right.
we kind of muddled through it.
And Jeff, it is a problem, it's also shared by public auditorium. So there's probably some other conversation I'll have about that.
Next slide, this is ceiling water infiltration. This is actually in the exhibit hall. If you look at that image, we've got a makeshift drain system there underneath the tree pits that are on the mall area. It's in numerous locations there and it's basically catching the water, so it's not dripping down or anything. Again, Ellis has confirmed that this was identified as a problem some time ago in unit pits. So again, more conversation, figuring out what the solution is. It redoing those pits, we have to pull that out and redo it again. But again, it's on our agenda. Not committing that we're gonna get it done this year by any stretch, but I think we just need to know the costs on what the next steps are on projects. The next slide. This is in the utilidor, one of my favorite spaces, which is underneath Hall A. The problem here, again, this is groundwater seeping into the back area. Concern here is this butts up against a massive electrical panel, and we're starting to see some deterioration under it. So we're working through that process to figure out what's the best plan of attack to get to that also. Next slide. This is one I want to spend a little more time on. This is the loading dock driveway. If you don't know, there's a drive that comes behind the building, behind the parking structure into the loading dock. This is our main access to have move in and move out for exhibit shows. So this is a key part of this. This is the driveway. It's elevated. This is underneath. The picture on the left there, you can see the deterioration of the concrete. It's not a structural concern. When I spoke to Osborne, I shared that this makes me lose sleep at night, and he's assured me it's not a structural issue. It's a normal process that has to happen, and we've got to find a solution for. Contract probably with a concrete company to go in and do that. Again, Ellis is helping us with this to really figure out the next steps and how quickly we can get this done. All right, and again, this will be more conversation with the garage operation because we get access in there through the garage.
This is shared, by the way, it's a shared issue once again, so it's a county CCFDC issue because it's a common space we have to talk about.
Next slide, similar issue here. This is the pillar that we had a section of this drop down in the loading dock last year that had to be repaired. You can see the repair marks there where they patched it. There are, Ellis, I think we said 6 columns like this or something along the lakeside area supporting that. The problem is in this area, we're able to identify the problem, but the other columns are masked with some elements, so that it's kind of hidden away. So we got to figure out the best way to assess whether we have a problem in there or not. And again, it's more research that needs to be done to figure out what's the long-term solution in this area, or if we even have a problem. We don't know until we get into there and really do some testing. And the next slide, just a point of reference, this was pointed out in the assessment of some of the pipes that are starting to see corrosion in it, not a leak at this point. I just know that a lot of buildings have had ongoing issues with these pipes that are getting to this age and starting to cause problems. So we will continue to monitor it to see if it's something that we gotta worry about down the road, fix as needed. But again, it's just something that we're keeping an eye on as a result of this report. Can't see this slide because I certainly can't, but I do want to just point out to everyone, this is in your packet. First page here, these are the outstanding capital projects. In this report, this is $2.3 million of capital projects. All of these have been outstanding for some length of time. The top project is the bollards, the 95 bollards that will be placed around the entrance on Lakeside. Little over $1.1 million. Project is due to commence in March. First bollards were delivered already this month. We're waiting for the remainder to be delivered. The start in March, should end somewhere around June or July, and we'll have that project completed. It's the biggest ticket item on the outstanding projects. The funds are set aside. I've got that accounted for in the capital budget. By June, all of these projects will be off of our plate. What's the
Who's doing the
bollards?
bollard project? Who's in?
I'm sorry,
Who's doing the project?
Ozane.
Oh,
they did the bollards that are already installed in Bowen.
Bowen Design, and then we're.
Once that's done, we're gonna clear the majority of this next day. Of these outstanding projects and be moving on to 2025 only. Everything's complete. There'll be some funds that I'm saving on some of these projects, like the terrazzo floor, but we're looking at solutions there, so we'll work that off. Okay. Next slide, also in your packet, this is 2025. This is, we approved $1.8 million for capital budgets for 2025. The big ticket item there is $1.5 million. We do the lighting in what is the corridor into the ballroom on the lakeside of the building. I've kind of slowed myself down on this project for multiple reasons. We allotted $67,000 to do the initial scope of work to figure out what it's gonna take to redo this lighting and get the CDs associated with that. We're not gonna start that project until we get a better understanding of what these other projects, as a result of the Osborne study, are gonna cost. Exactly how much of these funds we can allot to that. We think the bridge project, which is that main driveway area, will come in somewhere less than $100,000. If that's the case, we think everything else will come in less than that, and it'll free up funds for it to start that lighting project. If some of these projects come in heavier on the lights, then we're just gonna have to reassess. We can kick the project on the lighting down a little bit. If we have some funds left after this, we'll probably start the project, but we do some of the lighting in some corridors at the end of the year. Okay, but we will stick around the budget.
We have an additional capital source that you're gonna talk about.
Correct, we're gonna get to that next.
What's our estimated utility savings on the lighting replacement?
It's relatively negligible, because when, this building was built, the incandescent fluorescent lighting was very efficient. So, we're not doing it so much for a savings, but rather they don't make the parts to fix those anymore.
I know why we're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if we did it.
We did, we had engineers look at it, and it's negligible.
Have you ranked these projects of most importance?
Yes, the projects that are outstanding those funds were already committed, and so they're mostly.
No, I mean on this list.
The 2025.
2025 list, we have not, we're waiting to see exactly what the cost is. I think the driveway is the most important part, number one. You can't lose access to the building. So that's the number one, because that controls access. And then number two would be those columns, because we already had some section of that fall, and we want to make sure it's safe issue it's coming.
It probably would be best if you provide a ranking of these projects, and then so you can, as this board can decide which ones need to be considered.
Out of curiosity on the lighting, it's just something that I've put on my mind even for personal, in terms of, are we in a period of transition in technology? In the sense of, I know everything is now LED is able to do more, but you know, a lot of it, even when you're moving to LED, we're no longer having the separation between the bulb and the fixture. It's all one. So it's a much bigger replacement down the road. Is it better to wait a little bit for the transition for the technology to evolve, or has it evolved enough that we're comfortable?
I mean, my understanding of the technology, the one thing that's happening in the industry is they're powering the lighting through Ethernet, where they use digital powering to the lights with an Ethernet cable instead of a regular copper cable that's coming from direct power. There's a trend for some of that to be implemented, but it's still expensive to do. And I don't really think you need that kind of versatility. Power PoE is what they call it.
Yeah.
You're on a computer and you can literally control each light on the computer with PoE. I don't think we need that finite detail to do the kind of lighting that they need to do. So I think we'll have to work on this. What are the creative options with regard to getting out of a balanced world? That's gonna have to happen.
Are we having a problem with the lights going out now?
Yes,
And that's what's driving this?
yes, sir.
Okay.
The non-LED lights.
Yeah,
Sure.
not being able to replace.
They don't make replacement parts.
I
Okay.
just asked a question because sometimes it's, I mean, we've lived through it with the TVs where people bought.
Right,
TVs,
right.
You know, just sort of
Right.
halfway through a technological change where you jump in and, but.
But you also don't wanna be on the cutting edge. You
No, I
don't
get
wanna be on the cutting edge. You wanna let technologies run for a little while before you implement it, so.
It's what Apple does, right? Let Samsung be your guinea pig and then you come in and copy it. All right.
Make it better.
So, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
That's okay. But I will bring those.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
Okay. Next slide goes into a renovation project closeout. Again, Ellis and Jeff have been very helpful in this process. I'm gonna show you in a minute some projects that we're doing. And just am sharing this image with you, and it's kind of hard to see, but feel free when you leave today, you can walk outside and check it out. This is the tent structure that's out there. These are one of the corner frame, part of the frame. It's moving, right? I've been assured it's not a structural issue, that we don't have a concern, but I'm kind of being persistent on this. It's a perception issue right now that it looks like it's not stable. And so we've got to find a solution to this, because no customer's gonna book this with people in there if it looks like some of the way. So,
But Tim, what's moving? I'm sorry.
well, so this is the corner frame, right?
It's bold.
The
One of the-
upright.
It's bold.
Yeah, the upright.
It's not bowed, this is an aluminum frame tent, and so when the wind blows, the tent kind of does this, right? But it's stable. But what happens is the foot shimmies a little bit, so it gets out of plumb.
Because that foot is not screwed down or mounted.
If you look right
It's
now,
braced down.
if you look right now, it's not even plumb. Right, so the question is, there's different ways that you can get that restored. You can continuously adjust it, so for each event it can be unplumbed. There's some maintenance costs involved in doing that. You could explore, and we're looking at, is there a structural solution? Are there weighting solutions? So we're looking at different solutions for it. At a minimum, you can adjust it and have people adjust it so that for every event it will look perfectly good. The question is it a maintenance issue or is there a longer term issue? That's what we're exploring. There's no structural issue.
Who proposed it?
Pardon?
Who proposed the tent as it is?
Who proposed it?
Yes, who designed it, who proposed it?
Well, the tent provider was giving us the feedback on how to design it for the tent. And what we were focused on was, will the structure handle the tent load? And so we were assured by the tent provider that the loads that they gave us could be handled on the pavers and the roof. And that we needed the tie downs. The tie downs are the key thing for stability in the tent, because that's what we did structurally. Nobody made us aware at that time that the legs would move around. So we didn't even consider that as a possibility, because we were worried more about structural concerns.
And so there are no structural issues or other issues. The issue is maintaining it and how to make sure that occurs. So we're looking at all the angles of that.
This wasn't the Turner project, this was a separate project.
As you recall, this was a separate issue.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying, okay, they're standing behind their work. I mean,
They've given us options, but we don't like their options, so we're looking at other ways.
so are we advancing that?
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't cheap, right?
Pardon?
This wasn't cheap.
That's what.
This didn't cost, it cost us
No,
wasn't cheap.
and like I say, we are what we're saying is there's different ways to look at it. We're doing that investigation is going on right now. We don't have a conclusion.
Okay, cause I wouldn't be paying for nothing. That's what I would be doing. Like, fix it. That's just me.
So we'll keep everyone updated on the progress here on the solution. Next slide goes into the last of the change orders that were approved. These were funds that were as a result of bond interest, correct?
Yes.
And once we close out the project, there could be additional funds available, which we're not sure what that'll be until we actually close out the project. Ellis is following up with Turner on the punch list, which they're updating weekly at this point, and we hope to have that completed within the next 30 days or so.
Yeah, and just to be clear on why, so what happens is there's a calculation which is done of arbitrage interest. The county does that with the steeple until the project is closed out and they actually see it's complicated because it's different interest rates on funds for different periods. Until that's done, they don't do the calculation. When it's done, we then get the remaining money. So there will be money. We don't know how much. There'll be money coming back, which either is used for some of these additional projects or in capital repair.
It can't, yeah, and it can only be used for specific purposes, so the money has.
It can be used, well, it can be used. We've taken a look at the documents. Sometimes some of these things that could only be used for the capital repair or replacement specifically related to the project. We think it's a little broader. We think it has to be used for capital repair replacement of the building, but we don't think it's limited to the confines of the meat lines of the expansion, but it does have to be related to the capital improvement of our project. Can't put it in operations or anything else.
I do have a question. Tim, as far as the capital renovations, I saw the list and everything. I'm curious if, because it's only been 12 years, is this kind of a natural deterioration, or are we talking just inferior product from the beginning?
I can talk about the concrete portion of it.
So let me make a couple comments here. So first of all, almost everything that you're seeing is scheduled and it's normal. Now, some of what you see there, keep in mind that part of this project was taking the old infrastructures, those columns, those are columns that existed under the streets for decades before we started the project. We jacked them up and we did certain things, but there's certain aspects of this project that were actually the conversion of the old convention center underground. We took great advantage of that. That utilidor existed, and we saved tens of millions of dollars by using the old foundations in a lot of these systems. So we saved tens of millions of dollars in conversion. And some of the things you're seeing are actually, for example, one of those areas is a common area to the public auditorium. That leaking is on the other side. That's our border, and we have to have some conversations about that. But a lot of what you actually saw is older infrastructure than the building. Some of the things like some of the corrosion you see, after 12 years, you see some things that start to need maintenance. That's what maintenance is all about. And it's when you don't do your deferred maintenance, when you defer the maintenance that you get into real problems.
Sure.
These are very manageable, controllable issues. It's just the normal thing that you do as a building maintenance.
But just basically said it's kind of.
Okay, no, I'm just thinking because if this was something that the product in the beginning was not right, then that's a whole other conversation. But then we, as a board, would need to start thinking, how do we make sure that we have funds set aside for the regular maintenance? Because in another 12 years, if we're going to be having this conversation again, then we need to be responsible.
From time to time, in the earlier years, we saw things that we thought did relate back to original construction. In every one of those cases, we went back to the design builder and we pointed it out and they took care of it, which is another thing I will, Tim, point out. So as this expansion is done, we have a 1-year general warranty on everything that was done by the design builder. 10 months after substantial completion, which is coming up in a few months, we do a complete comprehensive walkthrough. We will Our engineers, Ellis, will all be walking through the building. Anything we see, anything we spot that is not perfect in our view, or, we then say, 12-month warranty is not up. You still have the obligation to come back and fix and tweak. So there's a very comprehensive walkthrough to make sure that we've looked at this building entirely before that general warranty period runs out. Now, even after the general warranty, if there's things that appear and they didn't meet plans and specifications, we still have rights for many, many years after that. Because general warranties, their obligation to actually come back and fix it. It's not our chasing them. So that's why the 10-month walkthrough is so critical. We do that to protect the building and protect the border.
Thank you.
Next slide, Julie.
Tim, what was the tent lighting, just out of curiosity, is that? Well,
It was actually lighting, so when we.
For inside the tent?
Yeah.
And it,
That's done, right?
It's not the flow.
Oh,
That was the last change orders that were done, that were in process right now.
so for when the tent was up over this last fall, late summer, we didn't have lighting?
there's lighting in it, general lighting. What we wanna do is, what's my word, Ellis?
Color
Color
changing
changing LED. For the clients, that has been just a huge hit with clients,
But we haven't made that purchase yet?
have not done that.
Are we, does this mean we're going to?
Those were approved to do that.
Approved, okay, I just want, all right.
Yeah.
And Trevor, real quick to answer your question earlier, 39 events so far of the 81 have used the terrace in some capacity.
It's almost half.
This is a list, that was the list we sent out with all the explanation, the right column.
That's, okay, that's what I was,
Yes,
that's what that was. I thought it was approved, that's why I was a little.
Yeah,
confused
so
about this.
you already bring everybody else to on that.
The one thing I just cautious of, it's already 9:40, yeah, so with that, we'll look at Jeff for a quick update, 30-second update on the bird mitigation.
Yeah.
And that should say bird strike mitigation, we're not mitigating birds. Just two quick comments on both of these. On the bird strike mitigation, we are at the point right now, we just reviewed, we have the contract ready to be finalized right now. So the contract's going out to the provider, and we're on schedule to get that all taken care of. So they will come out, they will do a test fit to make sure that we like the product. And then in the spring, they will come back and install on all of the stacks. So that's ongoing. On the Superman, we've done our work, the plaza's ready to go. We've been in communication with Siegel and Schuster. They're still going through their fundraising effort. They have made some modifications in their budget, so that their challenges are more easily met by them. They've got some concessions on their end. They're more than 50% done with their fundraising. They still have some ways to go. And we're in communication with them simply about how their fundraising is going. And we're having ongoing conversations about how quickly they can get that done and getting their contract finalized and done.
Any chance that gets up in time for the release of the movie this summer?
There's a conversation with them right now. I would say that they're still, they got their first half of their fundraising done. They're having some challenges right now. They're asking for some help, and also we are looking into the fund that we want to maintain. We're trying to make sure that it's not over. We're trying to make sure that the fund that we want to maintain for insurance and maintenance is reasonable, so it's not too great. So we're looking into that right now. But they still have several $100,000, so they have about $800,000 to raise.
I think there might be a shot. They're still trying. There might be a shot.
Yeah, but I think from a PR standpoint, it would be.
They're asking for a little help from some of their corporate sponsors. They're just looking for some folks to help them push it over the finish line. And we've got communications about that.
Okay, good job. Next goes into Hilton updates. Turn over to Larry.
We'll go very quickly here. 2024 for the industry was very sluggish. RevPAR growth was 1.7%. Compared to 2019, RevPAR on a nominal basis up 15%, but that's not inflation adjusted. So even though it looks like it is, when you bake in operating expense increases, you're still not where we were back in 2019. The outlook for 2025 industry-wide is essentially mirroring 2024.
various forecasts are alternating, but in general, RevPAR growth expected to be in the 1% to 2% range. Overall, primarily coming from ADR, occupancy expected to remain relatively level. Next slide. As we look at Cleveland, this is again the broader Cleveland market. RevPAR growth was 7% for 2024. But when we look to the next slide for the downtown hotels, RevPAR increased by almost 15%. You can see the two big spikes, April, July, August. That's, you got ASAE, you got NCA there. Q4 was a little sluggish, which we kind of knew sort of as we came into the year. But again, a very strong year overall for the downtown hotels. And then last slide, again, seeing good numbers here as we come into 2025. So some new hotel supply starting to percolate a little bit. The Fidelity Hotel opens soon. Others sort of still in the works. So as things start to improve, we'll start to see some other hotel developments continue to evolve. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, perhaps you're speaking hotel lingo.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna use context clues.
Yeah.
You said the RevPAR. So is that the number of the rooms or the revenue of
Yes.
over the number of rooms that you have available?
Yeah, so RevPAR is the combination of occupancy and average daily rate. And sort of an industry metric. It's revenue per available room.
Thank you.
And that growth year over year is key, industry key metric.
Any questions for there?
Great, thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir.
All right, then I'll turn it over to Tim for the board retreat.
Just, last slide here, the board retreat, we just need to identify some dates, that are available. And Julie will send out more information to see where that works. I think right now we're looking at probably March. It's probably the earliest we could pull together. We had talked about doing something out of town. Our plan is at this stage to, do something local, like half day to a full day. We'll pull an agenda together. It'll cover some industry lingo, to be quite honest, to address some of the things overall in the market also. So we're working on that. We just need to figure out best dates. And again, I'll kick it over to Julie to reach out to everyone again.
And I was just gonna say where, it's hard enough trying to find time where the entire board is available for a meeting in town. So I know there was a discussion about trying to visit it just, the logistics, there's no way to make them work at this point. That doesn't mean that we can't do investigative trips if there are legitimate business reasons for the board to go somewhere else. We would do that, but I think for purposes of this retreat, we're trying to, and with how quickly we're trying to do it, it doesn't make sense to try to travel for it. All right.
And then last in your packets, we're attending, we have a table for the American Heart Association. If you're interested in joining us at a table, about everything.
Okay. All right. Any old business? Anybody has any old business? Any new business? All right, the next quarterly meeting is April 25th at 8:30 a.m. Let me pose that question, and I think here is the one question that I have. We always have our meeting at 8:30 a.m. Some of us may have a little bit harder time getting here at 8:30 than others. We have kids to put on the school bus and things. Would the board be opposed to starting at 8:45 a.m.? Is that something that would work for the?
I guess.
Trevor is giving me a look. All right,
Sure, 8:45.
8:45 a.m. So we'll start.
We'll
at
change that
8:45.
time.
I don't wanna, we were thinking 9 is cleaner, but the problem is you have to be out of here by 10 and.
Yeah, I would prefer the earlier, but
Yeah, it's sort of, just.
Jay, bring your kids to work.
We said that.
It's just Friday happens, Thursday night, they stay at their mother's, so that's the one night a week that I have to pick them up in the morning and bring them home. And put them to-
on Friday morning.
Friday, that is, so if we do it on Wednesdays, I'll be here at 7:30
in the morning. Yeah.
It's just the one day a week that I can't, all right, sounds good. With that, we're adjourned, we don't need a motion, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, real quick, we have a very active social media